Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Tuesday, April the 8th, and we've got 10 games tonight in the National Hockey League. So we'll start at the top of the board. Clinching scenarios tonight, lots of clinching scenarios. The Toronto Maple Leafs can clinch home ice, so second place in the division at worst with a win tonight. Normally going into Florida, you'd be like, well, that's probably not going to happen, but with the way things are going for Florida, and we will discuss that as well when we get to that portion of the board. But Toronto has a chance to clinch home ice in the first round. The Carolina Hurricanes can clinch home ice themselves. All they have to do is get a win and a Devils loss in any fashion, or if they get a point while the Devils lose in regulation. Also, you know, for the Carolina Hurricanes, we know that they're going to have home ice. It's a matter of making that reality tonight. Now, one thing to keep in mind for Carolina is Kotkaniemi is out for at least a week with an injury. So, obviously, the aim at this point in time when a player is injured is going to be make sure they're ready for Game 1 of the playoffs. Making sure they're ready for Game 1 of the playoffs does not necessarily mean 100%. So, this is where some of these injuries get a little bit dicey for teams and make fans a little more nervous. Dallas can clinch home ice with a win or a point while the Avs lose in any fashion or with an Avs regulation loss. So Dallas is 1 point away from clinching themselves. Home ice advantage in the first round. Not really a huge surprise there. They're still trying to chase down the Winnipeg Jets in first place in the Central. The Vegas Golden Knights, all they need tonight is a point. They're playing in Denver. So as long as that game goes to overtime, they clinch home ice as well. So then that means that LA could catch them. That means that Edmonton could not. Edmonton's third place, so that's where that's at. Vegas, very likely to win the division at this point, but they can officially clinch, at the very least, home ice advantage in the first round with a win tonight. Washington's not playing tonight, but they can clinch the division. All they need is the Carolina Hurricanes to lose their game. Carolina Hurricanes loss gives Washington the division title. Washington's going to be first in the East. They're going to be a tough out in the first round and beyond. Also in news that I put under the Washington Capitals logo because everybody was watching to see if Ovechkin would break the record. And 1.3 million tuned in to watch. According to TNT, the most watched hockey game on TNT during the regular season, which was a non-winter classic. So 1.3 million tuning in. I would imagine the numbers in Canada for viewership were really high as well. A lot of people wanted to watch history. History was made. And it's one of those things that you may never see that again in your lifetime. So, yeah, it makes sense that that was a very highly viewed hockey game. It's a shame that those aren't the kind of numbers they're drawing all the time. I think 1.3 million viewers per game. I think the NHL could get there with the right amount of marketing and continuing to build. Parekh has been recalled by the Calgary Flames. The Flames do find themselves in a position where they're not out of it. And with the win last night, and it was a nice comeback victory for them, they are now within 4 points of the Wild. They do have a game in hand. However, the Minnesota Wild have the tiebreaker. The Minnesota Wild have 33 regulation wins. Calgary has 28 regulation wins. So if they're tied in points, Minnesota has that tiebreaker, meaning Calgary has to finish ahead of Minnesota. So while they're -4 of being tied with Minnesota, they're -5 of making the playoffs. And it's still going to be a tough ask, but it is possible. It is absolutely possible if Calgary can keep playing the way they've been playing. Sam Bennett is likely done for the regular season, so they're just looking like, okay, they're saying he'll be back for the first game of the playoffs. Sounds the same as like Tkachuk back for the first game of the playoffs. Ekblad's suspension comes off after I think it's 2 games of the playoffs. So the question mark around Florida is going to be a matter of, so you get these guys back, did they just turn that back on and they'll look like a Stanley Cup contender again? Because recently they haven't, with all these players being out, including Barkov being a huge one as well. So I think there's a healthy amount of concern, I would think, around Florida and their chances for this year, because even if all these players come back for the start of the playoffs, doesn't necessarily mean, and I understand Ekblad, it's a suspension, but for the injured players, having them back for the first game of the playoffs doesn't necessarily mean they're 100%. Means they're well enough to play a playoff game, and the standard that you use for whether or not you feel like you can play in the playoffs, the pain threshold, it feels like, is a little bit higher. where you're like, you know what, I'll just play through this. Whereas during the regular season, maybe you want that time off. So it will be interesting to see if Florida can turn that back on come playoff time. That being said, let's go ahead and get into the preview portion of today's program. As I previously stated, we have 10 games tonight in the National Hockey League. 6 of them starting at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. 2 an hour later, 1 an hour after that, and 1 a half an hour after that. So the 9:30 start Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, being in Denver, that'll be once a lot of these games are done, I would think. Usually 2.5 hours. Some games will be done. Not all, but some. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, Carolina in Buffalo against the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres are still alive. They absolutely are. They're 1 point away from being eliminated, but they're mathematically alive. For Carolina, they're 6-4 in their last 10. They're 7 points ahead of New Jersey. And as I stated, all they need tonight is basically a win. Just go out there and win, and you're good. Whereas for Buffalo, they're 7-3 in their last 10. They're 11 points back of a playoff spot. They need every team ahead of them to just lose and keep losing. And they need to win everything from here. It's highly unlikely, but it's still mathematically out there. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start. Detroit in Montreal. Yes, this is the biggest game of the season for the Detroit Red Wings. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10. They are 6 points back of the team they're facing tonight, which holds the last wildcard spot, the Montreal Canadiens, who are 5-3-2 in their last 10. It's not a great record over their last 10, but they're still pulling further ahead of a lot of the teams chasing them because, especially in the case of the Rangers, I don't know how interested they are in getting there. Detroit and the Rangers, both 6 points back of Montreal. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start. Toronto in Florida. As previously stated, Toronto 8-1-1 in their last 10. 2 points ahead of Tampa in first place in that division. Florida 3-6-1 in their last 10. They're 4 points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning. But Florida has to look over their shoulders because Ottawa's right there. So this could be a fun one tonight between Toronto and Florida because usually they are. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start. Boston in New Jersey against the Devils. Normally these are close, tight affairs. I don't expect that tonight. Boston's 1-8-1 in their last 10. They have been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. New Jersey 5-4-1 in their last 10. And they're 10 points back of Carolina. I accidentally put a plus instead of a minus. They're 10 points back of Carolina. And they clinch a playoff spot tonight with a point. So Carolina's looking to clinch second. New Jersey's looking to clinch third place. Basically, with a point, that means that the Rangers, the team in the metro closest to them, can't catch them. And so that would clinch New Jersey third spot. And as I said, Carolina could be second, and Washington could be... We could have all this set tonight. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start. Ottawa in Columbus against the Blue Jackets. Ottawa can clinch a playoff spot with a win or a loss by the Wings. Also, that 1 point scenario. If they get a point and Detroit gets only 1 point. So for Ottawa, they're 6-3-1 in their last 10. They're only 2 points back of Florida. Ottawa no longer worried about teams below the playoff line. They're concerned with trying to move up. On the Columbus side, they're 3-6-1 in their last 10. They're 8 points back of a playoff spot. And at this stage, their playoff hopes pretty much dashed. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start. Chicago in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. Chicago 2-7-1 in their last 10. Pittsburgh 4-4-2 in their last 10. Both of these teams mathematically eliminated from the playoffs and just playing out the string. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific start. The New York Islanders in Nashville against the Preds. Islanders 4-4-2 in their last 10. 7 points back of a playoff spot, so their chances have really taken a hit over the last week. Nashville 2-8 over their last 10. Of course, they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs as well. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific start between Vancouver and Dallas. And I'm rooting for Dallas. Just being honest here. For Vancouver, they're 8 points back of a playoff spot. I don't see them getting into the playoffs. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. Whereas for Dallas, they're 7-1-2 in their last 10. They're only 5 points back of Winnipeg. A win would bring them within 3 points. And it would be nice to see them clinch home ice against Colorado if that's going to be the first round matchup. Because home ice could be huge in that matchup between Dallas and Colorado. At this point, it does look like Winnipeg's going to win the division. There's a matchup between Dallas and Winnipeg later on in the week. Should be fun. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific start. The Seattle Kraken in Utah against the Utah Hockey Club. Seattle 5-4-1 in their last 10. They're mathematically eliminated, but the way they played in LA last night, they're still going out and playing games. They're still playing to win. Whereas Utah, they're 5-4-1 in their last 10 as well. They're 9 points back of a playoff spot and still mathematically alive, but it's just that mathematically part. 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific start. Vegas in Colorado against the Avs. Vegas 8-2 in their last 10, and they're 5 points ahead of the LA Kings. Whereas Colorado 6-3-1 in their last 10 and 7 points back of Dallas. As I said, Dallas can clinch home ice against Colorado. Colorado still has St. Louis to contend with as well. St. Louis's loss last night to Winnipeg did Colorado a favor. But let me know your picks in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. And also let me know your thoughts on any of the things on the board that I've been talking about. If you're a Flames fan, do you think they can do it? Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I will talk to you again soon.